Hey, welcome to the Lick of the Week videos. I've been looking again at the Lick of the Week poll that I brought back up so I could see some of the topics that folks were wanting to look at. And I think I've covered a lot of the material that's there. Seems like I might have seen maybe in the poll or somewhere on another thread or maybe in the email, I can't remember exactly. I got a few questions about triplets and how to figure out a triplet and how to play it on the banjo, so I thought that would be something good to cover in this Lick of the Week video. Triplets, most people tend to think when they first hear about a triplet in the banjo world, they tend to think about, you know, three quick notes played together. And it is a grouping of three notes in one way, but it's not just three notes. Triplets, if you think about when you hear a triplet in the music, it's really about not so much it's a group of three notes that last the same amount of time as two notes, but it's also a rhythmic tool. It's something that has a specific feel. If you listen to a lot of Irish music, you hear a lot of triplets as ornaments. Well, there's triplets in all kinds of music, rock, and there's a lot of different types of triplets. Like for banjo playing, we tend to think of triplets as eighth notes in common time, 3 eighth notes. So you can think of a triplet as a rhythmic tool. It means playing three notes in the same space as two, and they're all evenly spaced. So if I had, say in terms of banjo terminology that people understand, if I played 2 eighth notes with a metronome, you know, every click of the metronome, 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and, would represent 2 halves of a beat, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Typically, eighth notes, you have to play one note per beat, which means one note down, one note up, one note down, one note up. So you could play 8 notes on 4 beats, right? 4 times 2 is 8. Now, a triplet, if you put a triplet in that series there, what would happen is instead of playing 2 notes on every beat, you'd actually play 3 notes on a beat. So if you multiplied that, 8 notes in a measure, you know, 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and, 4 times 2 is 8 notes. Triplets would wind up being 3, 6, 9, 12. You'd have 12 triplet notes in the same amount of space that you would have had 8 notes, which I don't want to get too high-headed here, but you know, it gets confusing if you think about it too much. But really, triplets are more about the rhythmic side of things. You know, even though you are playing 3 notes in the space of 2, they have a particular kind of feel to them. And I thought before we got into any, you know, exotic triplet licks or anything like that, it'd be a good time maybe just to give you some basic exercises for playing triplets. So I'm going to bring my, let me see if I got my digital metronome here. What I'm going to do is set, let's find a good timing for this. Not too slow and not too fast, maybe about 70 beats a minute. And first, we're going to just pick one string. I'm going to use the first string. And there's different ways to play triplets. Even though we're playing 3-finger style, you automatically assume that we would always use 3 fingers to play triplets. But you can actually, you know, flat pickers, people who play tenor banjo, especially Irish tenor banjo, would use a flat pick, and they can do monstrously exotic triplet sections with just a flat pick. So we do want to try to use 3 fingers if we can, but you're not limited or relegated to just doing 3 fingers for triplets. You can do triplets with 2 fingers, or, you know, if you're into Don Reno style, you may even try some triplets with a thumb pick. But the first thing before we get into all these stylistic things is to just do some basic ideas on the banjo and incorporate triplets in there. So I'm going to use the first string, and I'm going to play first 8th notes, and I'm going to use the typical single string technique that 3-finger stylists use, which is to alternate notes, thumb and index. So if we're playing at 70 beats a minute, what we're going to do is play 2 notes per click. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So if you count 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those are 8th notes. typically in common time rolls would be expressed usually as eighth notes. In cut time, everything would be cut in half, which doubles the time, which cuts the time duration in half, so you'd have 16ths in cut time. But let's deal with eighth notes because that's how people generally like to view triplets. It's easier to understand as eighths. So we've got these steady streams of eighth notes. Again, I'm using single string style. If I want to play triplets in the same amount of space, and again, I'm using all three fingers on the first string. You might want to use your thumb and index. But you notice not only am I playing three notes in the same space as I played two eighth notes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But it also has a definite rhythmic pulse. Bum 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 bum, and you can actually syncopate triplets to make them do all kinds of cool bouncy things, especially in Irish music. But again, if you decide you want to try to use all three fingers to do this exercise, you need to space your fingers out enough. Let's see if I got this in the camera shot, where you're actually not, your fingers don't want to clank together when you're doing this. So if I'm doing eighth notes, I'm going to try to use thumb and index. And then if I switch to triplets, get the idea there. Let me stop the metronome. The tough thing about playing triplets, especially when you're talking about switching from three fingers, like a roll, into a triplet, is the stylistic approach. How are you going to express those three notes in the space of two? So if you're going to do three notes over two eighth notes, you could do it quickly in a roll pattern, or you could switch to single style. What we're going to do is in the next video or two, we're going to investigate some different stylistically different ways to play eighth notes. But the most important thing is to understand the fundamental concept of the triplet, and we use eighth notes to express them. So again, you can pick any string you want, but the main goal here is to understand that yes, it is three notes that last the same amount as two. But if you think about it logically, it's more of a rhythmic tool. You're using notes to kind of play around with the rhythmic feel within measures and stuff. So chew on that for a little while, and I'll see you in the next video. I'm going to fire the metronome back up, and we'll just do eighths followed by triplets. Be careful that you don't run away from the metronome, which is easy to do with triplets because they're really fun to do, and you tend to forget the rhythmic side of it. If you decide you want to do the triplets with two fingers, you'll have to go thumb, index, thumb, thumb, index, thumb. It's a little quirkier to do it that way. It's really easy to roll out on one string. With three fingers. So try both approaches and see how that works out for you. See you next time. Thanks.